Hello friends, welcome to our session on web applications using MVC architecture. The agenda for today's session is Model 2 architecture and a simple example to create web applications with JSP and servlets. The Model 2 architecture uses MVC architecture to create applications with servlets. Here, the MVC architecture means model, view, and controller components. Model is here. What is a model component? What is a view component? And what is a controller component is explained clearly in the earlier session on web applications. But in this session, we'll be covering a simple example with servlets and JSP using MVC architecture in web applications using Eclipse IDE. This is the here in this session I'll be giving you an example of the web application, and in that example I will be making it very clear where the model components are used, where the view components are used, and where the controller components are used. So what are the model, view, controller components and how it is implemented in a web application using servlets? That is what we are going to see in this session. So at first, please open Eclipse IDE for web applications, that is for Java EE components, and then click on the file menu. On the file menu, click on new project. In the new project, select dynamic web applications. Clicking on the dynamic web applications, write this project name as a student reg, and then click onto the finish button. On doing so, you get you can, just as you see on the project explorer, you get a student reg file, and this student reg project inside with the components, the structure for the project is be given. Now inside this structure we have the deployment descriptor. Actually the structure gives us many components. Since this is an IDE for the project, it gives us most of the components that's required for this project to run. So it gives the deployment descriptor, then the Java JAX, WS web services, these are all provided. Then the Java resources, inside which we have the SRC. This is the folder where we have to create the controller and the model components, and this I'll be speaking to you about later on. In this SRC, we have the controller and the model components. Then we have to create it. This is something which we have created. Then we come to the libraries. Inside the libraries, the Java libraries are being provided. On all the support libraries that is needed for this project has been provided. Then we have this JavaScript resources provided, and we have the reference libraries. Inside the reference libraries, what are the additional libraries that we provide for this project has to be added to it. And here in this project, we'll need a MySQL connector.java. So that has been added over here because externally we have to connect it to the MySQL connector. So that is how that has been going to be done. You have to use the connector for it. So the connector has been provided. Then we have the build component, and then we have the web content. Inside the web content, we have the meta inf and the web inf folders. And then inside the web content, this is a position where we have to write the view components, that is the JSP pages. View is always displayed onto the browser, so it is the web content where we write the we either write the HTML or JSP or any other UI components where which can be seen onto the browser. So here inside the web content we create home.jsp and studentregform.jsp files. Now when we come to the studentregform.jsp file, here first we have to come to the student reg form. We'll see the view components, then we'll go to the controller and the model components. So first let me come to the view component. So first let me look into the studentregform.jsp file. Here into the studentregform.jsp file, the JSP file is somewhat similar to the HTML file. Actually not only similar, it is the HTML file. Actually a JSP page is a HTML page into which we can embed the Java code. So for embedding we need scriptlets and other tags are needed. So we'll speak about the tags and what are the tags and what are all is needed in the JSP session on JSP. So here now just please understand that is the HTML page inside which we have to write the Java code. Now when we come to HTML, we can see that we have the HTML tags written. Inside the HTML tags we have the head and the body. Inside the body tag we have the form action. Form action is as in the HTML, as the HTML says, form action is used for on submission in a table form, in a form. When you submit something, which page it has to move to, it's that is written by, it can be a JSP page or it can be a HTML page or any other UI or any URL also. Here it is the URL of the servlet written over here. It is student reg. I'll make it clear to you later on. But then the form action is the next page that we have to move to. And method, we have two methods, get and post. And here it means we use get if data is not that important and it can be passed through the URL. We can use the get method, and post if it is an important data and should not be seen onto the on the URL. So here it is written as post because it's some data which should not be seen onto the URL. So we have used the post method, and accordingly when it goes to the servlet, it will take the corresponding data. So I'll tell you about a method and I'll tell you about that later on. So here the action is student reg and the method is post, and the rest of the code that is written under this is actually uh, the error messages, how the error messages can be printed and all. So we'll come to this later on in the next part of this of our session, because this is in this session I'll be speaking to you all about just the if everything is in the proper way. So if it's working fine, then I'll be using this particular session is for everything is, if everything is working fine and I go to the thank you page or the home page. Now here imagine that everything is working fine, so I'm not speaking about this error messages now. Now I'll come to the next page. No, the same page, student reg itself, under the error messages, actually earlier we just have to write a table. In that table we have the tr table tag. Inside the table tag we have the tr, which is the row. We have the td, which is the column. So td column, first column, in first row, in the first row I say student id, and inside in the first column I say student id, and in the second column of the first row I say input type equals text. Input type text means a text field has been inputted with the name SID. Next I close the TD, next I close the TR. Next we come to the next TR, that is next row. In the next row I open the TD, there is a column, and the first column I give password. So that will be displayed. And next TD, that is after in the same second row, in the second column I would write input type equals password. So a password field has to be inputted and name is equal to pass. Then I close the TD, close the TR, again I open the TR, and then in the TD I would say confirm password / TD. Then TD input type equals password, name equals cpass, and I would write the another pass confirm. I have to confirm the password, so another password field with the name cpass has been created, and I close the TD. Now I close the TR. Now again open the TR, and in the TR I would say open the TD and input type equals submit, value equals register, and again I would close the TD. Now TR has been closed, a table has been closed, form has been closed, and the body has been closed, and a HTML tag has been closed. Now I'll come to the next page. Now on submission, this is the last button is the submit button. So on submission, next JSP page that I have created is the thanks for registering, that is home page, home.jsp page. Here I have written nothing else, but inside the body I've just written thanks for registering. Actually this is the home page. If I am using web designing and all, I can design it in the best possible way, and I can come to the user home and I can create all the links and all to which that particular user can move to. So actually that is all when I come to a project and all. Here I'm just giving you a structure, a flow, just a external simple example of how it can be done, how the flow can be maintained, how a web application can be created. So here this is just for thanks for registering page has been created. This is the home.jsp page. So these are the two JSP pages that we create. Now when I submit, I don't directly go to the thanks for registering page. Actually there the form action was showing student reg. So we'll be moving to the controller. So first of all, just look at the left hand side of this page on the project explorer. Under the student reg we can see the controller component. Inside the controller component we are creating a package, that is the student controller, and inside the controller we have the student reg servlet.java. The student reg servlet.java file is actually a servlet. Sorry, yeah, it's a servlet. Inside the servlet, so you have to create a servlet over there, and right click and create a servlet. And a servlet is nothing but a Java file which extends the HTTP servlet. So HTTP servlet is another Java page which contains two parameters, the request and the response parameters. The data is being passed in the form of a request and response parameters over here. So uh, here we can see that at the rate web servlet / reg student, this is student reg, this is the name that has been given in the URL in the form action over there in the JSP page. Now we come to the private static file. You have to create a serial version UID, and the array list been created for the error messages. Now we don't have to speak about all these things because I'll come to the error messages and the error list and all later on. So next we'll come to the next part. Here again, in the do get method. Now when I come to the do get method, we have two parameters, the request and the response parameters. And for because do get and do post, the data is transferred in the form of request and response parameters. So here string sid is equal to this is the string variables that I create, and from request dot get parameter sid, this sid is the name of the text field of the in the JSP page. I retrieve the values in the form of a JSP page, and then string pass is equal to request dot get parameter pass, and cpass is equal to request dot get parameter cpass. So all the text field and the password field values are retrieved using the request parameters. Now there error messages and all are there that I'll be speaking about later on in the next session, in my next part, where I'll be speaking on if an error occurs. This is the session I'll be speaking on if there is no error, how it works. Now next I have to create a student object. The student object has been created. The student object S is equal to new student SID comma pass. This is S is a student object is a class is actually written inside the model part. You can just look into the left hand side of the in the Explorer. You can see the model component package. Inside it we have creating two Java files, student.java and the student.db.java. Now student is S is equal to new student SID comma pass, and student DB equals new student DB. Now sdb.insert data S. When I call sdb is another object of the student DB class which contains a method called insert data, which I have written over there in the model file, and it I can pass the student object as a parameter. It requires an object of the student class. So when I pass data this way, the insertion happens, and after insertion, the request dispatcher is another class of the servlet which uses an object view, and using this object class, I can move to the next JSP page. If insertion happens properly, then the request.get request dispatcher home.jsp, here in this using this method get request dispatcher in the home.jsp page, this is the page to which I have to move to, and view.forward request response using this code, I'll move to the home.jsp page. That is the home.jsp I have already spoken about. So this here inside the do get method, and either the do get or the do post methods will be called, and the do get or the do post will depend on the method that's written inside the JSP page. Form action of the form action, form tag of the JSP page. Form action I've told you is the student reg, and method was post. So here the post method will be called inside the do post method. So if it is a post method, the do post method will be called, which automatically calls the do get. So we can write the code inside the do get method. Now next we'll come to the student model package. Inside the model package, we have a student bean class which contains two variables, SID and password. It has a constructor with two variables, and then it has also got the getter and setter methods for these variables. So this is what is the student model package, bean class. Next we come to the student DB class, which is also written inside. If you look into the left hand side in the student explorer, you can see that the model package is inside the model package. You can see a student DB class. In the student DB class, we have we can import the SQL connection. We have many import statements over here because this is where we are using the JDBC API for connectivity. Now for connectivity, first thing you have to do is you have to add the MySQL connector in the reference library. We have to download it from the internet and then add it to the reference libraries. Next, we have to go to the public class student DB, public student DB. Inside that, we have try class.forename com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. This is the for registering to the this inside the construct. When I call the constructor of the student DB, automatically the driver is registered. So class.forename, it is registering the function. It will register to the driver. Now, and this driver has to be added in the reference library. Only then the driver can be only if this jar file, the mysql connector.java.a jar file is being added, only then corresponding version. What is the version? Depending on the JDK version, you have to add the connector version, and only then you can call the register the driver. So first install, download and insert the library, then register the driver. After that, you have to write the insertion methods. So first you have to, the next part in the insert data object function, I create a function and which contains a parameter student s, which student is the object of the Java Bean class, which I have created inside the model. Here in the try catch statement, everything needs a try catch statement. Here connection con is equal to driver manager.get connection. Here the URL name of the database is being passed, and the root is the username, and then the password of the database is being passed. So here now I have created an object of the connection object. So jdbc mysql / localhost 3306 / my database is the URL path of the database. So I'll create that. And then after that, the prepared statement PST is equal to con.prepared statement, insert into login values, question mark, comma, question mark. Here I'm inserting the values into the login table, and then pst.setString1, s.sid and pst.setString2, s.pass. So inside the login and into the login table, I pass the values, and pst.execute update, I execute the execute update method is being called. So first one, I have create a connection, then I create a prepared statement object where I write the insertion code, and then I pass the values using the PST object for the corresponding variables, and then these values are being passed using the model component, and then pst.execute update method is used for updating the data. And inside the try catch statement, I would say error plus c. Now after this, I would run the program JSP page. The student ID as 001, password has been entered, confirm password has been entered, and I register. Click on to the submit button, and then I would say thanks for registering. Now I say thanks for registering. It's all registered properly, and then we see that in the database the data has been entered, and the S password ID is S001, and the password is TMZ001. These values are being entered into the login field. Now login table. Now we'll come to the now if this is the way we can create the program. If the program is running fine. So thanks for attending our session on web applications using MVC Architecture Part 1, where I have covered just if things are going properly and insertion. And if error happens, we'll be covering in the Part 2 of our session. If an error happens, what is going to happen, that I'll be telling. So thanks for attending our session.